Namaste, yogis. Welcome to episode 9 of Happy Jack Yoga Podcast. We are so excited to be here with all of you. I'm Happy Jack, coming at you live from Cambridge, Massachusetts, USA, and I am here with
Happy Hanna, and I am reporting from Liechtenstein, a little country where I can see Switzerland and almost also Austria, like right in between those two countries.
Amazing. What technology, right? We get to come together from different parts of the world. Just looking around here, we got Virginia in the house, we got Ohio, we got UK, we got the Northeast US, we got Colorado, we got New York, we got Spain, and we got Texas on the line, and of course Liechtenstein and Boston. And it's beautiful to be able to be here. This is episode 9. This is October 31st, 2023, which means Happy Halloween for those of you who may be celebrating. Oh, Yada got excited. She's of the younger generation, still in her 20s. Maybe you're still trick-or-treating. I don't know. No, you're not. Okay. I trick-or-treated until like I was a teenager, like I think 16 or 17, because I had younger siblings. My sister's 7 years younger. But I was starting to get looks. It's like, I think you're a little bit old for this. But it's a fun way. So anybody out there who has kids and is going trick-or-treating, or you're getting dressed up, enjoy. Just seeing Team Finland is coming on now as well. Mariana representing. I also want to just say a huge thank you to all this. This is like so late, but a huge thank you for all of the birthday wishes. I know my birthday was October 12th, but I've been so busy writing papers and doing schoolwork that just this weekend on Sunday, I went through my Facebook and I saw all of the beautiful birthday wishes from many of you who are here. So this is my belated thank you for the beautiful words, and something we wanted to say right off the get-go, because we said it at the end of episode 8, but we are so close, Hanna. We are so close. We have set this little mini goal where we would love to get 10 5-star reviews of the podcast, either in Spotify or in Apple. We got 9. We got 9 on Apple and we got 9 on Spotify, which means we did get a little bit of progress from last time. But if you're here with us live, or if you're listening to this, if you would be so kind to take a moment, even right now, and give us a 5-star rating, 5-star rating, leave a little comment. We appreciate it. It lets people find this nice yoga conversation. So that's so thank you for those who have already. I know several of you already have. And maybe Hanna, is Brandon saying he tried on Spotify, but he didn't see.
I don't know if you can leave reviews on Spotify. I've never done that myself. Maybe.
I don't know. I definitely know you can do like the star, like 5-star. But anyways, we'll investigate that. Anything you're able to do, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
And of course, like really huge thank you for those of you who are here live with us. I called out where you're from, but I want to send some love to Amy, Brandon, Danica, Diana, Elizabeth, Tanya, Alice and Scott, Yada. Thank you for being here live with us. And though, so we got 10 of us who are here live. There's always a larger percentage, a larger number of people who are listening through one of the podcast platforms. So if you're listening through a platform, thank you for your support. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. We want it to be a conversation. That's something that Hanna and I have talked about. So if you have feedback, if you have questions, if you have topics, if you have myths that you would love for us to bust, send them in. Email them, info@happyjackyoga.com. We're here to bust them or at least discuss them. At least discuss them. So please feel free to do that. And if you want to join us live, if you want to be in here and then we get to hang out, we get to say hi before the podcast, we get to celebrate with you after the podcast, send us an email at info@happyjackyoga.com, and we'll get you the Zoom code. And then we get to see your beautiful face. And then whether you're knitting, maybe Yada is knitting, whatever.
Alice is.
Alice is definitely knitting. Whatever you're doing in your home, we get to be a part of that. and it's a lot of fun. So, and of course, sorry, the last little announcement: if you want to practice live yoga with us, Hanna is very often the teacher. I sometimes substitute. Fridays, free yoga class. In email the same email address. We'll get you the Zoom code. Come practice with us.
And it's only half an hour, so
Yeah,
most people can find the time.
definitely. Yes. So with that said, Hanna, let's jump into our yoga myth. What do you got for us today?
So, our myth today is, I don't know if it's a myth, it's a saying. And I don't think it's a negative saying, but I think it's a good one to discuss. And it goes like this: I bend so I don't break. And as
Mm,
yogis, I think all of us, we've heard that or even said that or thought that when life gets intense and challenging, then we think, oh, well, at least I can bend instead of
yeah.
snapping or breaking.
Yeah, I get it. And so I think if I understand perhaps where the myth or the part where we could challenge is like the fact that we don't break. Because the truth is, even as yogis, even as advanced practitioners of the hero's journey, or whatever practice we happen to do, there's moments in our life where we do break. Right, Hanna,
Mhm.
you like obviously at the time you lost your first husband. I don't think yoga would have saved that. Like that caused a break. That was breakdown,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right. And we all have those moments in our lives where we do break. So in a sense, there's truth to it. Yoga, physically makes us more flexible. It makes us more malleable. It makes us like I've done little funny things like I'll lose my balance and kind of trip or like even kind of falling out of a car. I'm embarrassed to say, but I don't hurt myself, or I somehow catch myself. And so in a way, the physical practice of yoga does help us bend so that we don't hurt ourselves. But I think on a level of like mentally and
And metaphorically.
metaphorically and psychologically, I think it's important to embrace the fact that there will be moments in life where we do break. We've talked in previous episodes. I'll just say quickly and jump to we've talked about loss, right, and losing loved ones, and in moments like that, it could happen. Sorry, you're gonna say.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, maybe there's a part of us that doesn't break,
Yes, I 100% agree. I mean, that's the core teaching of yoga.
right?
We are a pure spirit soul, and we are eternal. We didn't come into being the day we were born, and we don't cease to exist the day that this physical body dies. That's what the yoga teachings teach us. That's what even a lot of the other faith traditions teach us. That's something I can get behind. I believe that. And so you're right. In that sense, this is why it's complicated. Because
Mhm.
in that sense, yeah, we don't break. I mean, who we are, yeah, maybe we jump off the swing set and we break our leg. Maybe we lose a loved one and we break down emotionally.
Our heart can
Oh,
break.
our heart can break, right? From loss and relationships. And so in that sense, we will break, we will
Mm.
have pain, like really one of the great teachings of Buddhism, who I know we got some yogis in here. I know Elizabeth, and I got to read Alice's comments as well. She's like really inspired by Buddhism after the Buddhist psychology and mindfulness course. Still inspired by Bhakti yoga as well, but also just inspired by these teachings. And so one of those core teachings of Buddhism is that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So in that sense, things are going to happen. There's things that are out of our control. Some things are within our control. Many things are out of our control, and so pain is inevitable. And suffering though is optional. Now that for most of us humans, not so easy for suffering to be optional, because a big part of the human condition is suffering, and because we're so attached to this physical body, we're not attached to being that pure spirit soul. We're attached to the physical body. We're attached to our children. We're attached to our identity, our career, our bank account, our whatever, our
Which I
body.
kind of think we should be, because living in a body entails that we got to brush our teeth. You
Yeah.
know, brushing our teeth is attachment, but we want to have teeth attached.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah. And that's why we have different dharmas, right? There's so we think that we know in yoga the term dharma is your life purpose. And the important thing to remember, we have many dharmas, we have many purposes. And so, the yogis would say the ultimate dharma is just said simply love of God or connection with divinity or connection with something greater than ourselves is like the ultimate dharma. However, we have, you have a dharma, Hanna, as a parent. We have a dharma as leaders of a yoga community. I have a dharma as a student. We have dharmas in our to our employers, things like that. So you're right. We have a dharma to take care of our body, and again, that's where it gets like, this is where it gets complicated, right? It's like, in the one sense, we want to take care of our health. We want to honor ourselves. We want to brush our teeth. We want to meditate. We want to take a shower. We want to do a yoga practice. However, not be attached. Not be attached when yeah, go.
And not be attached to the outcome, of that yoga practice and the outcomes of all the things that are dharmas. Like, I think about also, like, what you're saying is almost like there's different parts of us. There's a part of me that is a parent. There's a part of me, that is your friend. There's a part of me that is a teacher. There's a part of me that is a student. But where I think, like, sometimes in the yoga world, what I don't love, and also because it's my own experience, like seeing yoga as a cure or as a complete cure all at everything, that's where I think, like, it might be good to remember that we are complex and layered beings, and depending on where we look, like what aspect of ourselves we're discussing, because sometimes these truths can feel like a bypass, right? If we say, that yoga and bending, if I do yoga, then I won't break,
Yeah. No, I love what you share about not being attached to the outcome. And I've heard this saying that, don't fall in love with the result. Don't fall in love with the goal. Fall in love with the process. And that's something, I feel that's something that I have done. I'm not attached to, like, we had a nice conversation on the Sunday satsang. Well, but anyways, I won't get into that. I love the process. I love waking up early and doing the meditation and doing the yoga. And I'm not doing it to change the shape of my body. I'm not doing it to check a box even. Like, I'm doing it because I love it. And so it's really nice when we can find these, as Yada said, tools, right? Yoga is a tool. Finding these tools that support that so that we love the process and we're not so attached to that outcome. And then also we need to really understand, won't go too deep into this conversation, but we touched on it last week, like, what is yoga, right? And so, like, because I think a lot of the conversation here, we're talking about the physical practice, and of course yoga is so much more than that.
Yeah.
So
And, like, if you think about it, I don't know if I'm interrupting your thought right now, but, like, if we think about yoga and the external outcomes, then we're going away from yoga, because that's technically the opposite of what yoga is, when we're looking for an inner sense of unity.
yeah, absolutely. Something I just want to put out there right now to everybody listening and everybody who's live with us right now, right before we hit start on this recording, I said to Hanna, I said, please, like, whenever you have something great to share, jump in, share it. And you shared with me, because we have a great open conversation relationship. You said, like, well, I'm mindful not to interrupt, because I know in the past, sometimes that can trip you up or mess you up or stress you out. And Hun, I give you full permission. And everybody in this call, please keep encouraging, because everything you share is so great. No, really encourage you keep jumping in because that's great. Gives me time to breathe and to pause and get recentered. But I just wanted to share that because I think that that's really something special that we now have after 10 years, maybe after many years of suffering being caused and from my insecurity, from my needing to control whatever stuff I was going through. But now I find it really helpful when you jump in. So please do.
Okay, and then also I think because we are learning, this platform is different than what we typically do. Like, leading teacher trainings in a circle, we had
Mhm.
to learn how to host those trainings online when COVID happened. And now this is also another way of being together, right? For all of us, those listening and those who are here in person, so to say, live with us. So it takes some practice, right? And it's a new way for us, all of us, to be in inquiry.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why we're here. That's the biggest part of what yoga is. I see Tanya up there. She's got a whiteboard. She's taking notes. She's doing work. We're here. I mean, this is what it's all about.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like you had a follow up to that myth around kind of being good enough.
Yeah.
Do you have that? Do you want to bring that up?
Well, like, you know, about like making yoga kind of like external. So, like, the point of yoga is to create union, we could say, right? Within, whether it's our idea of it being part of a bigger picture or even belonging to the humankind. Like, I think yoga for me, has been a place where I can connect dots, where things start to make sense, both yoga philosophy and then the physical practice. But then if we think about yoga as only a physical practice or something we only see on social media, I think it can become a little bit, maybe sometimes a little bit of a negative space where we just maybe find not, depends who we follow and how our algorithms are, but like sometimes it can be a little bit of a place of comparison, right? So I can't do that pose, so I can't bend that way, so does that mean that I'm not good enough as a yogi? So that's why I think like the conversation then in my mind, like when I was planning this conversation around bending and not breaking, my mind went to this conversation of comparison and how yoga easily, I think a lot of us come to yoga, or a lot of people don't even ever come to yoga because they have some maybe notions from before thinking, oh, I'm not flexible enough. And that's another myth we've already discussed. But basically, like the underlying thing being like, I'm not good enough. Like yoga can be a space where it's easy to feel that I'm not good enough because it's a whole lifestyle and not everyone can easily adopt all of the lifestyle advice or guidelines that yoga maybe provides in the West, I think.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to kind of ask you, when we kind of take this metaphor to the next kind of level, if you could talk about if yoga has ever caused you to think you're not good enough or anything in the yoga world.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that and I'm sure I've been in environments, where I was comparing myself to other students or other teachers and I did feel not good enough. I'm sure I could come up with some examples of that. But really what immediately comes to mind when I think about, not being good enough, I see my life before yoga and I see my life after yoga. And clearly my life before yoga, I did not feel good enough. I was trying to prove myself. I've shared before, I studied engineering to make my dad proud. Then I did my MBA to get a promotion to make my dad proud, like really trying to prove myself. And I remember one seminar that I was at, as we were doing this kind of self inquiry, we had to get clarity on, basically what is the mantra or the mantra of our life? Like what is the words that we're saying to ourselves And I'm embarrassed to say, I'm not embarrassed, but maybe, not the mantra that I have anymore. But the mantra that I really operated from was, I will show you. And it wasn't about being better than others. It wasn't about making others wrong, but it was about somehow trying to prove that I was enough. I'll show you, because I think, there were moments, I got teased as a kid or bullied or whatever, didn't do so well, didn't get picked for the sports team. And so I just took on this mantra of life. I'll show you. And so just all about proving myself, proving that I'm good enough, proving that I'm worthy. And that was my life, most of my life, up until yoga. And it seems that, I'm sure, again, I'm sure there's examples where I don't feel good enough and don't feel worthy, but it seems like since starting this practice of yoga, there is this big part of self-acceptance and self-worth and feeling that I am good enough. And it's, not to be conceited or whatever the word is, but like I genuinely feel I am good enough. I feel like I've got other issues. I've got lots of other insecurities, but I feel at my core I am enough. And I feel like a big part of that came from the hero's journey and this work, and just kind of learning to love myself and learning to accept myself. So that's what initially came up.
Yeah, and it sounds like um yoga has provided a space also for you to prove to yourself that you are good enough by doing all the steps, by doing all the practices, whether it's a flow yoga like hero's journey or becoming a teacher, and then all the steps that you've taken, those are steps where you show yourself that you are good enough, right?
Yeah. And it's just like, it's somehow the practice of yoga, like I've kind of, the words I have for it is they bring awareness. So like just getting on my yoga mat for, I got several hours of practice, but really doing asana, like yoga postures, is like 25 minutes a day. That's not a ton, right? And so doing 25 minutes of slow, easy, gentle asana postures is not going to radically change somebody's, physical body per se. But, what I've noticed is that when I get on my mat, I just become very aware of how I feel. And so if I indulged in something too much the night before, I feel that when I get on my yoga mat. And of course, through yoga, I practice non-judgment and non-criticism to myself, but I do have that awareness. And so it's like, from a place of non-judgment and non-criticism, it's like, okay, well, these types of foods make me feel this way. Or a smoothie, I love peanut butter smoothies when we're hanging out. And you can't even keep peanut butter in the house, right? Because it's like, I'll eat it all. Now even anyways. And so I know how good it is. Oh my God, it's so good. I would love one right now. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Allison Scott. I see you feel it. And but I know how it, and truthfully, one small peanut butter smoothie, there's no problem with that. But I've got a special definition of what small means and how many. So anyways, the point being, I notice how I feel. I feel like the yoga practice brings awareness. And so, I have, lost a lot of weight from this practice. And again, like, so this is where, does it stop the breaking? Does it help with not feeling good enough? I feel like it brings this awareness, and it becomes this tool, to navigate life and to navigate the ups and the downs. Because as much as I'm very disciplined and I enjoy the discipline, there's no negative energy around it, but I still, fall off the wagon per se, not with
Yeah.
alcohol, but
Well,
yeah.
I think that it sounds to me, and that's what I kind of feel about all of these yogic things, is like, it's not the yoga asana necessarily, like you are aware of how you are doing, like it's the the self-inquiry aspect and all of that, it seeps into all areas of your life. Like you become more mindful when you do yoga. Like that's kind of like we practice on the yoga mat to feel what it feels like to be in this body. And it's not always just to scan for negative eating habits. It might be that I'm tight here because I've been walking a lot, or a million things you could discover. But to me, it seems like then it also like becomes kind of, like we all know, a yogic lifestyle becomes a mindful lifestyle where we notice if we are out of balance. And what I hear in your share too about like the discipline that you say that you love is almost like that is your practice of balance. Balance is not a stable state where, like being asleep. Like when you're asleep. But balance is something you constantly create and navigate and like adjust to, right? And so it seems like yoga is like that too. It's something that seeps into how you see the world, right?
Yeah. I mean, it can bring certainty, which is something I love, something I appreciate, something I value. The yoga, the practice, the meditation, the pranayama breathing techniques, it brings certainty. It's like I know, I'll tell you right now, if I when I go to bed, as I did last night, when I go to bed at 7:30 p.m., which is earlier than the trick-or-treaters who are going out tonight, but I go to bed at 7:30 p.m. and I get my 8 to 8.5 hours sleep, and I wake up and I do those rituals. And for those on live can see, I drink my green juice, right? Like I have such a high degree of certainty that I'm going to feel amazing. And that's what I do before something important like a podcast day. And that's what I do every day, to the best that I can. And so in one way, yoga brings certainty. But again, coming back to the truth that, it doesn't mean that we're not going to break at moments in our life. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have pain. As much as I can, be so grateful to say, you know, I am good enough. I believe I'm good enough. I don't believe I'm better than anybody else. It doesn't matter. I believe I'm good enough. But at the same time, I definitely have insecurities. I mean, we talked about last night. We got to go for the first walk and talk for the first time in a few weeks, and kind of just debriefing. And one of the things that I'm always trying to figure out is like, what is the right way to spend my life? Like, how should I engage? Because there's actually so many amazing options, right? And I'm doing many of those amazing options, but there's the rational side of my mind wants to figure it out. It's like, well, if I should be, if spirituality and living, the highly spiritual life is like the ultimate goal, well, then I want to really focus on that, and I want to remove distractions that are not supporting that, and I want to go all in there. And if it's something else, and so I won't get into that conversation, but there is still this kind of uncertainty, this insecurity of figuring it
Kind of
out.
a seeking.
Totally. And I know that balance is a big part of it, which I'm sure a lot of you would, invite. And Danica's like, yep, for sure. And you would say that to me many times, Hanna. It's like, hey, like, enjoy, you can enjoy a croissant and you can enjoy a green juice. Like, to me, those just don't go together. It's like, no, for me, only green juice. But, for others, creating that balance. And yeah, so without taking it too far off.
Yeah. And those are things that I think, maybe at midlife, a person, or at any time, you might ask yourself, like, what's the kind of life that I want to lead? And then being really smart and being exposed to a lot of different ways of living, and being, a very disciplined and like a seeker that you are, seeing a lot of different ways of living. Of course, it's natural that you should be in inquiry around what you want to do going forward.
And I think this is what yoga gives us. It gives it, well, certainly, again, this is where it doesn't make it easy. It just like a yoga pose, like half pigeon, can feel very uncomfortable. I feel like this work of yoga can bring us out of our comfort zone. I feel like that's where I am right now. Because in one sense, I feel like my dharma, my greatest dharma, is in the realm of spirituality. And everybody's different. So if I think about, my family who I love, and when I text and message with, my brother and my sister, like my brother said, like they're at the hockey rink 10 times a week. So between my brother who plays on two teams and his two boys who play on one team but practices in games, they go to the hockey rink, and we live way out in the country, so that's like not close, 10 times a week, plus work, plus everything else. But I feel like for him, probably his primary dharma in life, certainly at this stage, is his family, right? And so that's like perfect. That's beautiful. Like he feels so fulfilled being able to play hockey, being able to coach his boys play hockey, being able to watch his kids play hockey. Parents out there will get this, whatever your kids do. And that's the dharma at that stage of life. I didn't have that stage. I did as a kid, but not as a parent. I feel like my dharma, my primary dharma, and knowing we have many of them, is in this realm of spirituality. And that
But
ties
that's
in.
quite recent that you should say that. When I met you, there
Yeah,
was no part of you that was looking for spirituality that I'm aware of. Maybe that's not correct, but
it's true.
wouldn't that
Yeah.
be like also um ec- like what I often say about why I can be excited about life and yoga and all of the things is because as we do this, things reveal themselves to us. And that's why setting intentions and goals sometimes to me feels like too little, too reductionist, like you
Mm.
can't possibly know what is going to reveal itself to you
Yeah.
as you go through life, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so to your point, couple of great points. Like for sure, when we met in 2014, March 29th, I was not looking for the spiritual side of yoga. I had experienced it. I'd spent, a year in India backpacking around, like in these spiritual environments, but primarily I was there for my physical health and well-being, my
Yeah, like
mental health and
yeah.
well-being.
Like how, if you were to look back at that 1 year, what was maybe something that changed you at spirituality? Like what kind of impressions did it leave? Or do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, so many. Oh my goodness.
right?
Well, one of them I just wrote about in one of my papers is that after this was in 2015, but after spending a few months at the ashram in Rishikesh, I've done a few different advanced 500-hour trainings. I did this one there, spent 3 months there. Every day we do the Agnihotra, which is the fire ritual, the fire puja. And so we offer ghee and herbs to the fire, and we chant svaha, and we release anything that's not serving us. We get to let it go, and we bring intention to what that is that we're letting go. And I've said before, for me, it was criticism and judgment to myself and to others. And having done that every day for a few months, and then you and your youngest son, Axel, you met me at the Delhi airport
Mm-hmm.
after, before we went on to Thailand. And you're like, what? I mean, you can say it in your words, but
Mm-hmm.
essentially you're like,
I
well,
wished
first
you
of all,
would
you
have
look,
always stayed that way, is what I
yeah,
felt in that moment.
you're
And
right.
also, I had not felt like anything, like not in contrast to something else. You know what I mean? Like it was just really beautiful. You were really soft, and your energy was really soft, is the word that I would describe it, like heart soft.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you also said I looked like Jesus.
You
I'm
did.
not claiming I am not divine. I am not enlightened. No way. But I had long hair down in my belly button, and I had not shaved in a few months. And so I looked a little bit like a Jesus figure, and had some of those qualities. And so it works. And
Totally.
but to be true though, I didn't go there for that, right? I went there to, teach me yoga, kind of thing or whatever. But coming back to what you said, so seeds were planted of spirituality, but it was really only in recent years. Even 2017, you took me to an Amma retreat, right? She's a great sage from South India, and happy to go there. Beautiful experience. I didn't feel it was for me. And I had even some resistance, and you know, uh, so it wasn't quite
Yeah,
ready
like you
for
had
bed.
an adverse reaction, which is
Yeah,
not bad. Like it's not like you should have any other kind of reaction. Like that was,
yeah,
at that time, it could be for many reasons.
yeah. That's right. And so, but I feel like, seeds slowly planted, and then, reading books and conversations with you. And, from the day we met, from the beginning, when we started hanging out at your house, like you always had a picture of Neem Karoli Baba, who was a great yogi from India, and a picture of Amma. So like, from the beginning, that's yoga has been, a spiritual been about a spirituality for you. And I feel like for me it's been slower, but of course, I don't know. Now it's snowballing, especially since COVID. It's really been snowballing, and it feels good and it feels right. And I can't, even though I've bounced around and I've gone, deep in the Tony Robbins world. And I was just invited by Tony and the team to be in Dallas, Texas next month, I think, for some special academy. And I'm going to politely decline, not because no, I don't want to be there. It's not amazing. I've got other commitments. It's not as amazing as it would be. It's not a top priority for me right now. I crazy as it seems, instead of spending a week with Tony Robbins and his team, I'd rather be at the local ashram, sitting on the floor, eating with my hands, and talking to monks about the meaning of life. And that's just where I'm at right now. And so I
And
guess the point,
someone might say, why can't you do both?
yeah,
Like one thing doesn't exclude the other,
that's right. Yeah,
but I get your point that you are what it sounds to me like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're doing spiritual practices of a certain tradition,
mhm.
and you're inquiring what reveal, maybe not in these words, but like what reveals itself to you as you do that. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally, totally. And I mean, to your point, for sure, they don't exclude each other. They can totally work together. And in fact, when I'm done studying at Harvard Divinity School, I do look forward to tapping back into, the connecting with Tony and being
Yeah.
in that world.
Coaching world.
Yeah, and but it's truthfully it's just I would have to miss several days of school, so that is the main reason. But I guess maybe the point is, and I would prefer, if I had to pick one or the other, I would pick that kind of deeply spiritual path right now. And again, just bringing it back to what you said at the beginning, what I'm sharing, this is only my experience. This is not like the right path, the best path. This is my path at this stage of life for 43-year-old Canadian, yogi. It just happens to be for this one individual. Um, and and I guess I want to make that point out because our brother Brandon is here. You had some nice words this past Sunday on. We have a mentorship program. In fact, it's open. I'll just quickly mention it. So I have because I don't have the time to spend a lot of time with Tony Robbins and doing a lot of these other programs. I have a mentorship program, and it's we meet every Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, for 45 minutes, and I take the group through the certified yoga life coaching curriculum. And it's beautiful, it's powerful, it's very affordable. Having spent thousands on coaching and charged thousands for coaching, this is $20 a month, and people can come in, join us live 4 times a month, every week, for that coaching. But I just wanted to mention, because Brandon, has shared some kind words, that at this stage of his life, and he's 10 years, 11 years younger than me, he's looking to me in one sense as a mentor. And I, thank you for those kind words. And I just want to point out, though, for all of us, we will have mentors, we will have people in our life that we look up to, and the things that resonate, the things that feel right, let's practice that, let's embrace that, let's use it, let's try it out. And anything that doesn't feel right, we don't have to do it, because there's probably not any one individual, there shouldn't be any one individual where it's like, I'm going to do exactly everything they do, but rather, creating our own way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was a long way of
That was
busting a myth.
long. bending and not breaking.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Are we still talking about the same topic? I don't know. So we got a little tangent, but yeah, I guess the point being, yoga is it's what is yoga? It's so much more than just the physical practice.
Mm.
Does it help us bend physically? Yes. Does it help us bend and be flexible mentally and metaphorically? Yes. Is it going to prevent us from ever breaking? Unlikely. But do we ever break because we're a pure spirit soul that has been eternal and will always continue to be? It's a complicated question. So it's not a one word answer, but rather a 42-minute word answer.
Yeah, I love it. Good summary right there.
Yeah, so let's jump into the main topic and do what we can. What do we got for our topic today?
Well, today we wanted to discuss we pick the main topic, so to say, from our 200-hour teacher training that is divided into 13 modules. And today we're going to discuss module 6, which is going within. And those of you who've done the hero's journey with us, which is our 200-hour teacher training, will know that part of that module is conversations around noble silence and dukkha and vasanas. And so without going like deeper than that, those of you who have not taken our 200-hour or are not so like familiar with our work, even just discussing noble silence could be a good idea if you wanted to kind of, Jack, share what that is, and then maybe dive into the dukkha sukha conversation.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll start with noble silence and we'll see how far we get. Because this is important. You know, if you listen a few podcasts ago, actually it might have been the first episode where I shared my deepest, darkest secrets. And part of that experience was a noble silence. And Hanna, every year when we bring groups to India, we were just there in March. You know, the intention is each evening we go into a noble silence. So at the end, when say program ends at 8 p.m., and then it begins the next day at 6 a.m. Well, you know, in that evening, that early morning, everybody stays in a noble silence. And so really the intention is to not be connected externally, not having to talk or certainly not being on our devices, but really going within and being quiet. You know, I've noticed, as much as I'm disciplined and hyper focused and super productive, I'm also, my mind is kind of like always going. It's always being productive. And so I have to schedule downtime. And so, I mean, a few different moments where, you
And
know,
simply quiet time. It's
yeah,
a meditation of being part of life. Like you don't sit down and like in meditation, when a person sits down, that's noble silence too. You typically don't talk when you meditate, but
yeah.
noble silence is quieting the talking, right?
And I find, I mean, it's not the purpose per se, but I find from the moments of noble silence, a lot of creative ideas come. You know, we took our sabbatical, which was really just 1 week going into the Canadian countryside, no cell phone, no laptops, and just being in the nature. You know, I feel like Scott and Alice like live this way every day. Yeah, thumbs up. Oh my goodness, so envious, so much respect.
Mm-hmm.
But just taking that week, like, I mean, the two things that came out of that week, two huge things, was one was to come and study, you know, graduate school and come here to Harvard Divinity School, and the
That
other
that
thing,
was born out of a noble silence
100%,
week. And it's
100%, that
not
came
like we didn't talk, you and I. So in that
right.
way, it's a bit different than what we do in the live programs between like from the evening till the morning.
Yeah.
Because we did talk, but the intention was to not work and not to be online, not to create content or whatever it is that
Mhm.
people
We
do and we all do kind of all day, every day.
Yeah, we silenced the noise from the outside, and we got to just like meaningfully talk. And I mean, that was 2020. We also created this online school. We took all of our programs, and so we didn't do it that week, but we got a lot of clarity on how we want to do this and why we want to do this and why it's important. So a lot of beautiful things come from the
We
noble
also
side.
got engaged, or
We
didn't
did.
we?
We did. Yeah, that's right. On the last day on the last day of our sabbatical, we were doing a yoga flow, the fire.
Not this one, but this one.
Oh, look at that. You still wear it, eh?
This
Even
one.
though we uncoupled, but we're still best friends. Nice one. Look at that. Yeah. So we on the last day of the sabbatical, the fire was roaring and it was snowing. We went out for a canoe ride while it was snowing.
Maybe the most beautiful thing I ever experienced in Canada, in complete silence.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just thinking back to it, yeah, we practiced yoga and like and then I was kind of leading it. And so I said, bring your hands to heart center, deep inhale, exhale, inhale, gentle smile to your face, exhale, deep inhale, gently open your eyes. And then I'd had the ring sitting on your mat when you opened your eyes. And I knew that you'd wanted that particular ring. So yes, I mean, that nice thing came out um, what I also wanted to say, it doesn't always have to be about going on some big sabbatical or getting away from a week. I was sharing with you, Hanna, when we got to catch up yesterday. The last few weeks, I'll say the last 2 weeks have been elevated stress for me. Say 3 weeks, because my brother was here, which is amazing. But as having fun with my brother and my nephew meant falling behind on my studies at school. So as soon as they left, the last 2 weeks, I've been like head down, writing papers. And that's why I just saw all my birthday wishes like yesterday, right? So thanking, hitting like on all of those. And so I've been head down doing these papers for 2 weeks, not suffering, like nothing bad per se, but something interesting. I wear this ring. It's funny. When we were married, I never had a ring, of you and I, but now I have this aura ring, and it only fits my wedding ring finger, which is funny. But for those who can't see, I'm wearing this aura ring, and it tells me, a little bit of data about my sleep. And one of the things it tells me is about my heart rate, and while I'm sleeping, and I can see in the data these 2 weeks where I've been, elevated stress, elevated pressure, working really hard with not enough downtime. My heart rate during my sleep has been elevated, and every morning when I wake up and plug it in, it's like, did you stay up too late? Did you eat too late? Is there elevated stress in your life? Like, it knows. And of course I can feel it as well. Like I can actually feel it. So the point being, I wasn't giving myself the noble silence. I wasn't giving myself the downtime. As of yesterday at 5 p.m., I handed in my last paper. Oh, felt so good. That's when you and I went for a little walk and a talk. And after I did that, and then you went to bed because it's like way later for you. But I would have wanted to get out my Sanskrit and start doing Sanskrit homework because that's never ending. But I was like, you know what? I'm taking the rest of the evening off. And I did an Epsom salt bath, like hot water, Epsom salt, put on some Krishna Das, a little Hare Krishna mantra in the background, and just like totally vegged out. And then I got to bed really early. Like I was in bed at 6:30 p.m., lights out at 7:30 p.m. So good. That's how that's the yogi style.
Yeah.
And I woke up, and for the first day in a couple of weeks, the data of my ring is like congratulating me. Hey, what did you do different yesterday? And I'm sure there's different variables. Well, one, probably the pressure of getting my papers done will contribute, but I feel like the full night's sleep, the Epsom salt bath. I also did do a yoga nidra yesterday afternoon, which is also this NSDR, non-sleep deep rest, which is really what yoga nidra is. So it's important to find these The point being, noble silence, you don't have to just come to India with us and do it
Mhm.
living at the ashram. You don't have to go to the cabin for a week. You know, Scott and Alice are the privilege to be in Spain living a beautiful life. We don't all have to be able to go to Spain and live that lifestyle, but we can create it here
Yeah,
every
there's
single
different
day.
ways and different degrees. And with a little bit of like self insight, a person might know what they need. So I'm
Mm.
curious to know, which yoga nidra did you do? How long and which one?
It's a 15-minute one. It's one of yours. I can't stand listening to my own yoga nidra. I think I recorded one, I think, for your course, and it doesn't. I don't. At least for me, you know, and different again. You know, talking about our buddy Brandon, he was acknowledging. He's like, "Oh yeah, Jack, I love practicing your hero's journey, and you know, when you say this and when you say that, and you know, different people in our life will speak to us in different ways." And at least for me, it's hard to have like a non-sleep deep rest, listening to my own voice. But I don't know. Maybe
Your
you can do.
inner critic awakens.
Yeah, it does. Either that or I just fall asleep. So it's not a true yoga nidra. And that
Mhm.
often happens when at that time when in 2015 when I was living in India for those months doing that teacher training, we learned yoga nidra. And I would always record on my old school iPhone the teacher leading yoga nidra, and I had it beside me, and you could just hear me and the other students who were all snoring. You know, because we're so tired in the sense that like it's a full program up at 4:30 or something, and that wasn't normal for me back then.
And
So
also,
sometimes
it's not the purpose of yoga nidra is not to fall asleep,
that's
but
right.
sometimes it happens, and that's
Sometimes,
okay.
yeah, yeah. And
Hmm.
so I guess coming back, noble silence. It's something that's really important. And I saw a video. John Kabat-Zinn, who I know you're familiar with, you know, legend in the kind of Buddhist world, but like kind of the psychology world.
Hmm.
You could explain it better, Hanna. But anyways, he was just really pointing to the fact that we need to create these moments in our day to pause and to unplug from social media. This is nothing earth shattering. We all know this, but we need to have those. And it just spoke to me so much because when I'm preparing my food with love, I'm listening to a podcast. When I'm eating
With
my
love.
food with love, when I'm eating my food, I'm either listening to a podcast or
And
reading a book.
eating with love.
Yeah, as best as I can.
Yeah.
But I'm always, if I'm going for a walk, I'm listening to a podcast. Like it's like I'm always filling
Mhm.
myself up with really high vibe positive stuff. But I recognize, also needing that moment. And I shared, I think, on last week, and you guys, certainly Scott was shaking his head. When I go to the bathroom, I'm filling myself up with,
Scott
I'm
was
looking
shaking his
at too
head
much.
because he has a flip phone.
Oh yeah, exactly. And Yara's tisk
Also
tisking.
shaking her head.
No, I know. And hey, hun, listen, I've lived with you for many years. I've seen you do it as well. Just I'm calling you out. I'm not saying you do it every time.
No, I
Um,
don't spend as long in the bathroom as you do. Like, I don't get stuck with the phone in the bathroom.
okay, this is too much information now. So the
This is
point
going to
the
be
point
the name
being
of the podcast.
yeah.
Who got stuck in the bathroom with the phone in their hand?
The point being is like I at least for me, I recognize the need to pause, and even with my meditation, which these days, right, I do japa meditation, so I'm chanting mantras. So I feel like even when I'm meditating, I'm speaking, and it is still very healing and centering and calming and easeful, but it's not quite the same as stillness and doing nothing, and that's something that's not so easy.
Yeah, I think it's almost like a luxury. Like when we are like talking about noble silence and like just for both of us, the one big noble silence retreat that you and I did in the Canadian nature, it had such huge impact in what we both are doing now in terms of studies and in terms of Happy Jack Yoga. Like, and that's just like one example, but also like the daily little silent times in today's world, it feels like a huge gift, like if we're able to make that happen in our lives, to not be on the devices, to not be, in that constant kind of nonstop stream of information and entertainment that keeps us busy, and away from maybe the core of ourselves. And it seems to me like it's a luxury if we can arrange for that silent time. And then from that silent time, it's almost like gifts are poured out and miracles will unfold,
Hmm. Absolutely. And so we have to make the effort to create that silent time. And I feel like, I just thought of this, but part of it is the space. Like our space is conducive to how we feel. And I just literally just thought of it. But on my bedside table, my room is very simple. There's like nothing in there. It's very clean, organized. However, on my bedside table is like four books that I'm in the middle of reading. So there's almost like when I go to bed to relax, to unwind, I'm in the middle of reading four different books. So when am I ever going to finish any of them? I don't know. But there's like, yeah, I guess I just noticed for myself, there's this pattern to always needing to learn, to grow, to absorb, enlightening type information, and that needs to be balanced with really pausing. So that was good. I'm not
Mhm.
surprised. We only talked about noble silence. I will, just as a seed planter for next week, I'd love to. We're going to share about sukha and dukkha, and in fact, one of the teachings of the Yoga Sutras. And our friend Sue is not with us live, but she'll be listening. And I've figured out a way to tie in our yoga myth with the Yoga Sutra teaching, so that's going to go really well. Um, but we quickly will mention the next course going on at Happy Jack Yoga is Yoga for Grief. And so we're out of time. So well, maybe next week we'll get you to share a little bit about that, Hanna. But that's coming up for anybody who might be interested. Send us an email to learn about that. Lorna's just calling in right now because the EU time zone, she thinks it's just starting, but it's just ending. um, and if anybody is listening to this, if you want to join us live, send us an email, info@happyjackyoga.com. We'd love to welcome you. If you would love to practice yoga with us, send us an email. We'll get you the link. For those of you that have made a contribution to Patreon, patreon.com/happyjackyoga. Thank you. We appreciate it. It's a listener supported podcast and it unlocks some really cool yoga content. But biggest thanks to everybody who is here live with us. We're sending the love. Amy, Brandon, Danica, Diana, Lorna, who just tuned in from Portugal, Tanya, Allison, Scott, and Yada. Thank you for being here.
And
Thanks for
everyone listening
yeah.
anywhere on any of the platforms.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I love podcast day. Like I get really excited. I really enjoy this, and we're gonna keep getting better. For those who are on live with us, as soon as we stop record, if you have a moment, stick around. We'd love your feedback. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And everybody on Facebook Live, we're sending you so much love, high vibes. We'll see you next week. Make it an amazing rest of the day.